What's up, YouTube? Here we are in New Jersey after a long ass plane ride all the way from Singapore. But you know, I got here a couple of days ago and there's some crazy stuff going on with this drone activity. Now, when I was in Singapore and Bali, I saw maybe one or two like clips about this and I really didn't give it that much of a thought. But you know, after I got here, it's like the talk of the town. Everybody's talking about these drones. So you know, I started looking online about, you can't escape it, right? It's on the news, local news, you know, people talk about it around you. And so I figured I'd kind of share my thoughts on this because it's kind of crazy what's going on. And it's ongoing, right? Like this stuff is happening real time and it's by the day getting weirder and weirder. So I was going to do an episode about something totally different about, you know, how the stock market's doing and the economy and what to look for in the future. And I might still do that, but I figured I'd make this episode about what's happening around me here and give you kind of like the on the ground from an outside in perspective of which is some pretty crazy stuff, all this drone activity. Now, I got to tell you, I'm quite a skeptic when it comes to all this UAP stuff. I mean, let's face it, right? The probability of something like that happening is really low. So when I first got wind of all this drone activity stuff, I kind of just wrote it off as like, hey, you know, it's another one of these tinfoil hat stuff and I'm just not gonna bother and spend any time thinking about it. But like I said, like you can't get away from it when you're here. It's like that's all people talk about.
Mayor Matthew Morello of Washington Township in New Jersey. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for being here. You were just telling us that you've been seeing this yourself, and now you've signed a letter to Governor Murphy with 20 other mayors asking for help here and finding out what is going on.
And so I had no choice but to kind of look into it a little bit. And you know, it's actually kind of freaky. So here's what I've basically seen from the local news, from the local chat, local people. There's a couple of things that are just odd, right? So number one is these things that are, and I've seen them. I've actually, it's true, you can't record them with the iPhone at dark because of the light, the contrast and all that. And I'm not going to post what I've seen, but there's no shortage of that kind of stuff on Twitter or Reddit or Facebook or anywhere you go. But basically, dude, it's really weird. So number one, these things I don't think are airplanes. I really don't, because they hover, first of all. Airplanes don't hover in place. So they stay in place sometimes. And they're going around, from what I've seen, in some like weird grid activity. So like as if they're scanning an area from above, right? They're not going from point A to B. They're like meticulously going around in some grid pattern. The other thing, and this is from just watching what the local authorities show on news and on TV and on clips online, is that these things, a lot of them don't make any sound, right? So that's odd. They're silent and they fly really low, too low to be any airplane. The other thing that's odd is some people have tried to actually like go up to them, right? So there's a case where a local police force, like they actually went up in a helicopter. I saw the interview on TV and they tried to chase one down, and the weird thing is when they got close to it, the thing shut down, as in the lights went off and there's no sound. They couldn't pursue it anymore when they got close, which is odd. There's also, I've seen interviews, like actual video footage of local police who have pretty, you know, commercial, like pretty hefty commercial drones, and they launch their drones, like police security drones, up into the air to chase these things. And, you know, the weird thing is, there's no like heat signature from these flying things up in the air. So any propulsion up in the air, whether it be jets or propeller based, there's a motor with spinning action going on, pushing the air, and that generates heat. And so one of the ways they try to scan is through infrared and try to see if there's any heat signatures on these things, and there isn't any.
The department says these mystery drones evade detection because they don't give off heat like regular drones.
Why do you think that is?
We don't know. It's just something that we haven't, you know, it's not something that we've had our hands on. It's not something that we've experienced.
Something they hadn't experienced until now.
So they don't understand how these things are flying, right? Either the heat signatures are masked, hidden totally, or they're using some kind of propulsion system that we don't know or have a clue about. So that was odd, right? Watching that happen. And you know, where I am right now in New Jersey, so if you don't know Jersey, there's a lot of security setups here, meaning they produce a lot of like the armament for the entire military. There's a lot of secure bases here that do that. I'm actually not too far from one of them. And these places have come out and said, hey, you know, there's been these drones flying over. Like senior leaders from these installations have come out and said that. There's also been reports from the Coast Guard, right, saying that they've seen 30 to 40 of these things come out of the water and are following the Coast Guard ship.
One of their officers called 911 after seeing 50 of them come off the ocean.
Advised after we made contact with that officer that there were 50 that came off the ocean.
50?
50. That was my reaction also. There were 50 that were coming off the ocean.
And this is a sworn officer?
A sworn officer, yes. We contacted state police, we contacted the FBI, we contacted the Coast Guard, at which point the Coast Guard went out with their boat and they reported seeing 13 following their boat. And then the Coast Guard also advised that they went over them about 300 feet and had a wingspan of about 8 feet.
Right, so this is the Coast Guard saying that. So there's a lot of like corroborating, I guess, you know, evidence from people, both objective and subjective, talking about these flying things, and also me with my own two eyes, right? I've seen them. They're circling around. It's very odd. Now, the government has come out and said they don't really know what it is. They said pretty much nothing, right? Which is crazy. And the one thing they did say, though, is that it's not a foreign actor, meaning it's not a nexus of a foreign agent like Iran, China, or Russia. The Pentagon has come out and flatly said that that isn't the case. But they didn't say anything else, right? They said, we don't know what it is either, and the FBI and Department of Homeland Security are both working together to try and figure it out. The other thing they said that was kind of annoying, to be honest, was they're saying, well, you know, actually a lot of these things are manned airplanes flying legally. So you're just confusing them.
When you have spokesmodels coming out of the White House like Admiral Kirby directly conflicting with eyewitness accounts, and not just civilian accounts. We have eyewitness accounts from military personnel. We have spokespeople from the military, from Naval Base Earl in Monmouth County, from Picatinny Arsenal up in my neck of the woods on the border of Sussex and Morris counties. When you have those individuals confirming these, when you have the colonel of the New Jersey State Police, Patrick Callahan, flying up his men in a helicopter to do surveillance and noting that these drones are 6 feet in diameter, that they turn off their lights, and then they become undetectable. And then you have a spokesmodel out of the White House saying these things. It's nonsense. It does nothing but cause public chaos.
Kind of, you know, maybe some of them are, but that kind of rubs me the wrong way, because it's kind of like the whole, like, Joe Biden is mentally alert thing that the media was telling us for a while, and you know, obviously it turned out that he wasn't. So the government's pretty much saying like they don't know what it is, or they're not telling us what it is. And that leads me to basically, you know, some of the options of what the heck is going on, right? So, and there are discussions online about this, but let me just sum it up really quickly so you don't have to spend time reading all of it. The first thing is, one, we're all just mistaking these airplanes and maybe like actual like consumer drones for these flying objects. And so we, the people, are making the mistake here. There's nothing really going on and we're just, you know, confused. That's option one. Option two is, well, you know, it is actually something from Iran and China and some other country, and the government doesn't want us to know, so they flat out lied to us and say that it's not from them. You know, there is no, you know, ship at, you know, the seaport at the coast that's deploying these motherships that are then deploying all these drones out. So that's option two, that it is some foreign action. Third option is that it's actually our own, right? So this stuff is from the US government, and they're deploying it for whatever reason, we don't know, and they're not telling us about it. And then the fourth option is the most unlikely, which is that these are aliens, right? These are actually UFOs, UAP UFOs that are manned and created by aliens. And okay, I'll give that some possibility, but you know, I'm not a tinfoil hat guy, and I think that's the lowest probability among the 4 options here. So among these 4 options, the first option that we're all mistaken, look, I don't believe that, right? Too many people, too many video recordings, too many different government and non-government. We have even politicians, politicians who have come out and drove out and witnessed them. So I don't think that option 1 is viable. I think there really is something going on with these weird objects that are flying around, and we the people aren't mistaken here. The second option is that, these are actually from Iran and China and whatnot, Russia. Also, I don't think so, because the Pentagon would have flat out come out and say, they wouldn't have flat out said and denied it vehemently that that's not the case. And for them to launch this far away, the thing about America is it's so far away from everything else that they'd have to have some submarines or ships to deploy these drones from, right? The payload. And I don't think that's going on. Possible, but highly unlikely. Second most unlikely thing. Then the fourth one, which is that these are aliens, I would say, are also just about as unlikely. I mean, could be, yeah, maybe. Keep an open mind here, but I don't know if these are aliens. That probability is always there, right? So let's not focus on that one. So it comes down to basically the third one, which is the government is launching these drones and not telling us why, which is actually very worrisome, because if you think about it, if you just sit down and think about this, this is a very expensive and costly thing for them being the government. And they're not idiots. They knew this was going to happen. And what is happening? Basically, a vacuum of information, a lot of angry and unhappy people who have distrust with the government, telling the truth and being transparent. And a lot of now it's like on CNN even, now it's mainstream media. It's not just the blogosphere or social media online. So this thing has really ratcheted up. And it's a big headache for the government to manage, right? There's a lot of competing information from different parts of the government. It just doesn't make them look good. So in other words, this is a very high price tag for them to pay, right? To do this operation, to launch their advanced drones that has stealth capabilities and not tell people about it. It's a very expensive and costly thing for them to do. So whatever it is that they're doing is at least as valuable as that, which is high. So we're talking about a high value project that they're conducting here, okay? That's what I think is going on. Now, if you think about, well, why the hell are they launching so many drones? And why is it so concentrated in New Jersey? Well, now we don't know, right? Now we're going into the speculation. But that's what happens, right? That's the price you pay when you don't say anything and you have an information vacuum. So now, because you're not saying anything, everybody's going to start speculating. And it's rampant, right? Everything from, some people are saying that these drones are out there searching for something, right? And that they're doing it in a methodical way. And the question is, what the heck are they searching for? And this is kind of true, because drones are good for reconnaissance and information gathering. And so the question is, what are they searching for? And here it becomes speculative, right? Some people are saying these drones are looking for, I don't know, a dirty bomb, right? A radioactive dirty bomb, or some kind of hidden nuclear weapon or device. And that's why, they're around this area, and that's why, which actually worries me, right? I mean, where a dirty bomb is. But that's probably one of the things that they could be looking for, because then there would be a radioactive signature that you can kind of try, with some kind of advanced Geiger counter or neutrino measurement equipment on these drones. You can probably detect, right, these type of radioactive activity and I guess neutralize it. But who knows, right? All I know is that, the reason that they're not telling why they're doing it to the people, there's not many reasons, right? It's to protect somebody in the government, right? They don't want somebody in the government or some entities in the government to get in trouble, or they believe it's going to cause panic if they explain why they're searching for something, so they don't tell you. There's not many reasons why they would do such a thing, especially considering how expensive it is and costly it is in terms of management and headaches for them to actually carry out, right? And so it's, whatever it is, it's significant. It's, I think, likely that they don't want people to panic, or they're being secretive about some operation that they're going to do. It is kind of, interesting that all this activity started like after Trump got elected, and while he's still waiting to become the president towards the end of January. And that's a whole nother kind of conspiracy theory things going on. But that's the thing, right? We don't want to get bogged down in all these potential tinfoil hat stories, and just stick to the facts and use our logic. But the logic dictates, basically, something is going on. Government's searching for something, and they're using their own advanced equipment. And it's not in Jersey anymore, right? There are sightings out all the way in California, definitely New York and Philly and the surrounding states, even in Colorado. If you look online, it's actually not just here, right? It's around the world, actually. People in Australia and China, Indonesia, list goes on. Now, a lot of it could just be people like getting wind of this and mistaking stars and airplanes for drones and, adding to the noise. So, just got to keep that in mind. But all I can tell you is basically, now that I'm here in New Jersey, having to be here at this time when all this is like blowing up, and then seeing some of this stuff, yeah, I don't know. I know what I see in my eyes. It's weird. And there's something going on. And we don't know what it is. But I have a feeling the best case scenario is we never find out. Government finds what it's looking for and neutralizes whatever it is and takes care of it. And we never know what it is. And the whole thing just goes away. And in like a couple of years, we're going to be like, oh yeah, remember like in 2024, like towards the end of the year, there's all that drone stuff. And that'll be it. No one's going to talk about it anymore. That's the best case scenario and what I'm hoping for. Worst case scenario is there is actually something going on that's not good. And they aren't able to either find it or neutralize it. And it becomes a problem, whatever it is. And that's a bad situation because, like I said, this is a very expensive operation for them to carry out, given the huge amount of media coverage now there is about it and their difficulty in explaining things away without looking like idiots. And so whatever it is not something of small stature, right? It's a high value, high impact type of situation. And it goes awry and we have a situation at our hands. And let's hope that doesn't happen. So we don't really know. This is an hour by, every single night, there's all these things, people going out. So bird watching, it's like drone watching. We don't even know if it's drones, but that's what I think they are. And, we take it basically day by day, right? And see what happens. Yeah, I'll give you an update if anything changes. And until then, have a safe and blessed holidays. Peace.